Good morning. Today we are talking with Jamie Johnston, Associate Professor in Oslo Met University, Faculty of Social Science, Department of Archivistic, Library and Information Science.
Hello. Hi. Nice to be here this morning. Thank you for inviting me.
My name is Alicja Oborska, and I think we can start with the first question.
Great.
How did it happen that you started your adventure with science?
This is a very good question because in thinking about it, I think that it really started as I ventured out into the world, because I've always been interested in traveling and experiencing new cultures, but I also saw that there was challenges with that. And as I traveled, and in 2001 when I first moved to Iceland, I realized that it's not as easy as it looks, that to become part of a new culture and to be an active member of a new culture, to make those social connections. And so I began to think so scientifically at that point, but about integration and about where can people meet? How can people meet? And really beginning to look at it that way.
Okay, so I suppose that is the reason mainly why you choose social science of all science fields.
Yes. And libraries, actually, because I was inspired by my grandmother. She was a librarian for many years, and in her work, she actually worked with immigrants. That was not her primary focus, but it was a community college library, and there you have people who are studying in programs, going out into the workforce. And so many people there are working, if you have people of foreign background, they're both working on their degree, but also on their language skills. And so she would meet with them in the library and talk about their CV, practice job interviews with them, and this was part of her work as a librarian. So I had that seed planted in my mind when I decided to study library and information science, because I knew that libraries could be a place where we support people and becoming part of the culture, part of the society, and also a place where we can meet, because at that point I had also seen that libraries would have programs where people from the local community would meet with newcomers, and so that's where these ideas really started. So.
Okay. It's nice to hear that the libraries were in your life from the childhood. As we know, libraries are your field of interest. During your studies, your researches, do you focus on your local libraries in Norway or just all over the world?
Really all over the world, because I really believe that we can learn from library practices in one country, and many of the lessons we learn there are transferable to libraries elsewhere. So I really try to look internationally at what's happening in libraries. And I've gone into language cafes, my area of research, in Canada, Sweden, Norway, and beyond. So this is something that I look at, how libraries are working with the newcomer or immigrant populations, refugee populations, and I am here in Poland actually going into libraries too. I've had a wonderful opportunity, or many opportunities, to go in and talk to librarians about how they're working, and every time I go into a library I learn something new. So it's really it's inspiring, but it's very insightful, and it's also something that I feel that's really important for us to see and to talk to the librarians, because these lessons learned, what people are doing, what librarians are doing in one place, these lessons can be transferred to other libraries.
So as you said, you've seen Polish libraries, talked with Polish librarians. So do you spotted anything interesting in our Polish libraries? Maybe something different from the libraries in Norway?
I've seen the libraries working in very similar ways, both as providing a collection, the literature, and providing information, but also as being social meeting places. And the lessons I've learned have really been, and how that's happening, and how Polish libraries are doing that, because I find that libraries as social meeting places quite interesting. And so it's been very fun to go into libraries and see, how are they doing that? How have they organized the library? What types of programs have they offered? Which groups are they bringing together? And I've seen many different examples, but also how are they responding to the influx of refugees? And what's really struck me there is very interesting is how involved libraries have been from the very beginning, and how they've been working with community partners. And this is something that I find very, very interesting and very relevant for libraries internationally.
Yes, in your mouth it really sounds very interesting. But maybe we change a little bit topic. I'm very interested, how do you manage information in your everyday life?
Oh, yeah.
Hard question.
It's a tough question. Actually, I'm thinking of Pamela Mackenzie from Western University in Canada, her research on sort of the personal sort of information management practices. And I remember seeing some of the pictures she had, or in the post-it notes and the scribbles people have in their books, trying to keep track of their schedules and their information and what they're doing with their daily lives. When it comes to managing my own sort of information, it comes to the computer and my calendar, right? Trying to keep everything sort of organized and track. When it comes to getting information, though, about other things besides sort of me and my schedule and my work, when it comes to, say, information about something. I live in Iceland, so if it's something about Iceland or schools in Iceland, for example, I have kids, they go to school, I often need information because it's a different school system that I'm familiar with. So then I start asking other parents. I actually go to social sources for my information. So it's really about sort of more strategic, tapping into different information sources, right? Or if it's in Norway, about what's happening there, that's where I also work, then finding out about, things from people. Of course, there's always Google. But when it comes to the different, it really depends when it comes to information, what we're talking about, which information, if it's something relevant to sort of the daily life type activities or work activities. It's really different ways of managing it. And for my research, though, I would say that the information sources really, those are much more, of course, the academic literature and the libraries and the academic libraries I go to find articles and really get a sense of what research is out there. But also then it's the research actually that's going into libraries. That's very informative for me. So that's another way I tap into information.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Why have you decided to study abroad? I've done a little bit of research, so I know you're American.
Yes. That's a very good question, and one that I don't know if I have a proper answer for. I've always been interested in experiencing new cultures, and I would, when I was young in school in the U.S., I always would make friends with the exchange students, and really I was very curious about people who were coming from different places. As I then got older and started studying languages, I studied Spanish, and I was an exchange student in the Dominican Republic, Spain, Mexico. I took a group of exchange students then to Ghana later. So that was always been something that's been part of my life and a curiosity that I've had. And then I moved to Iceland in 2001, and that just continued.
Yeah. And another very interesting thing in your life, as I already said, done my research, every of your academic degrees have been made in different countries. Why?
Well, I had moved to Iceland in 2001, and so I decided to study library and information science there at the University of Iceland. It was a very good program, and Iceland has great libraries, and I, of course, could have gone back to the U.S. to study, but I felt this very interesting place to study libraries. I was very curious about the libraries, and also they didn't offer bachelor degrees in library science in the U.S. It's usually the master's degree. So this was an opportunity for me to start right away with library and information science. So I was very excited about that. I knew that's what I wanted to study. And then for my first master's, I went to the U.S. I did an online program at the University of Arizona. And I picked that program because they have the highest percentage of Latino students and Native American students, and also international students. So this was really a program that focused on diversity and bringing different perspectives, and that was something I very much valued and wanted to know more about. So I chose that program. And at that point, I had a BA in Library and Information Science. I had an MA in Library and Information Science. I had worked in libraries. I had worked in libraries in Iceland and in the U.S., and so I felt like I knew relatively well libraries. But I didn't feel that I knew enough about society. And so we went to Malmö, and I studied in Sweden, a very international, very multicultural city in the south of Sweden. And I studied international migration, ethnic relations there, because I wanted to know more about that aspect. What issues, what topics were most relevant? What was I dealing with? And how can I understand library services in relation? So that's where I gained that knowledge and really started on this research that I presented today on language cafes and integration and exchange of information. So I started there in Malmö, and I knew that I wanted to continue. And I had read for years, actually Bobcats 2004. I went to Bobcats 2004 in Riga, and that's actually the first time I heard Ragnar Audensen from Norway speak about the library as a multicultural meeting place. And that I followed his research from that day on, and I was always very much a fan. And when I came to do the PhD, I was thinking about where would I want to go. I thought maybe Iceland, maybe the US, maybe England, I wasn't sure. And my friend said, I've always followed the research from Norway. What about Norway? So, yeah, what about Norway? So I sent a message to Ragnar Audensen and said, hi, I'm doing research on language cafes. Do you offer PhDs? And he said, well, that research sounds very interesting. Yes, we do offer PhDs. The closing date is today at 5. Submit an application. So I did. I sent in an application, and as luck would have it, I got it. And then we went to Norway, where I did my PhD and continued to more sort of focused way study the language cafes there. And now I work there in Norway. So I've continued on in Norway.
Yes, I see that all of these countries give you a lot of new knowledge, a lot of experience, and to be honest, I'm a little jealous now that I'm studying in Poland, but maybe someday.
Well, you're more than welcome in Oslo. We would love to have you, so
I would love to go there.
There's an opportunity.
I would like to ask you now, what challenges do you think GLAM institutions are going to face since they want to be modern centers of information? GLAM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the galleries, libraries, archives,
Yes.
museums. It's, I think there are a lot of challenges. Of course, we look at what's happening now globally. We have issues with the environment, we have social issues, and of course then questions about economic life and all those aspects. And these are really the three pillars of sustainability, right? And so we're looking towards sustainability and how can the GLAM institutions provide information that's relevant for their communities? How can they be central players in finding the way forward, right? To really foster the resilience needed in communities and to help them get the information they need to solve some of these very crucial problems that we have today and move forward. We also see trends where there's more and more societal trends that are really trying to reduce the information the materials libraries have. So, for example, there's been a huge increase, like in the United States, with parents and community members who have complained about books containing certain types of material, information, and the whole banning of books has been a real issue that's really flared up recently. It's been there in the States before, but not at this scale. Right, so this is a real challenge to institutes, in institutions in providing information and resources, and how free are they to do that, and how free are they not to do that, right? What are the limits? Who sets the boundary there? Who decides? And we see some similar trends in Europe too, and there's some sense that there might be more sort of top-down sort of policies that may determine what libraries and other information institutions can and cannot offer, what types of information. So I really see this as being sort of the real challenge that we have in the years to come of our autonomy, our ability to make decisions for our communities and what we offer our communities, and also to ensure that our communities, get the information they need to make decisions for sustainable futures. So here's really where I see those challenges playing out.
Okay. Now maybe we're getting to the end slowly, slowly. Um, I would like to ask you about the Bobcats course. I know that besides the ordinary work in university, you are sharing your knowledge on such course. Maybe do you want to bring closer for our students what is happening on such course? Maybe to encourage them?
Yes, this is something that is new for us, this course. It's the first time we've offered a course online with the opportunity for students in other countries, at other universities to attend in this way. So this is a new opportunity for us at Oslo Metropolitan University, but also for Bobcats. What happened before was that only the students who were at the partner institutions who were organizing the conference could be involved in this way. And the focus of Bobcats has always been to facilitate the formation of networks, really to support the networks developing across countries, cross borders, cross cultures, cross languages, so that we can have a unified professional group, field in Europe and beyond. And so this is what really I'm very passionate about with Bobcats, is that we have these opportunities to come together, to work together, to understand one another, to share knowledge with each other, to create new knowledge with each other. And this is what really excites me about this course, is that we have this opportunity in the group to really come together in these ways. And I hope will, in the future, lead to collaborations and partnerships and shared and mutual understandings.
Yes, I myself can say about Bobcats that I think it's a new era for it because of that it's online. That really almost everyone all over the world can join and share the information, the knowledge, experience with such experienced people as you.
And what I'm excited about is we are together, and this is the theme of the conference, right? It's exploring the possibilities and expanding the boundaries, and that's what we're doing in the course. And I think it's so exciting that the students, want to go together on this journey of seeing what we can do, and I think that's very exciting.
So how do you think in this time, we can say after pandemic, in which directions can information science develop?
I would say with information science, really, some of the research that we're seeing here, when it goes more towards the different aspects, information in the different areas of our life. And we've seen a lot of research sort of within the business environment, and that's of course very important and needed, but really to understand information in these more social context, more in relation to our health and our our emotional selves. I think these areas are very important for us to have more understanding, and information science can really contribute here and bring in new understandings and knowledge to the broader communities.
So you think that there's something that we don't know about information? I mean, of course, there's for sure something, but
or the role it plays in our lives, the way it affects our lives, the way it shapes our lives. I think there's a lot to explore there, really.
For example, it could be the thesis of bachelor or master degree.
Yes, definitely.
It's a very wide topic to explore.
And I think we can look at any issue out there and say, what role does information play here? It's how my research really started. I saw that, with integration, there's a need for integration. There's a need for bringing people into society. There's a need for this. It's been expressed, the news and the media and research. We know this, and we know that libraries are working with this and somehow are supporting this. Does information have a role here? So you can take something that you observe, anything that's happening out there, and say, okay, how is information? How can we understand this with the use of information? What role might information play here? I think that there's quite a bit we can contribute when we look at things that way.
For sure. So, I have the last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
The most important question.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
we've heard that recently you have been in Warsaw. So the question is, which city you liked more, Warsaw or Krakow?
That one is a tricky one to answer.
course.
I know it's a little competition. And I have to say I like them both for different reasons, but I'm also getting to know both of the cities because this is my first time in Poland. I'm so excited to be in Poland. This is really fantastic because we've been able to collaborate thanks to online possibilities with both universities, the University of Warsaw and Jagiellonian University. I've met all the professors online, and this is the first time I actually get to meet them in person. So that's actually been my focus, really, is the people. And so I'm going to have to, and I say that with delight, come back so I can really compare the cities.
Okay. I hope the Krakow win after after all trips. So that's the end.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for,
Thank you
Yeah,
very
talking
much
to me.
for all your answers, for the passion with which you were answering my questions, and I hope you will like your stay in Poland.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been lots of fun having a chance to chat and meet in person.
Thank you.